Hi everyone, my name is Olivia. Today I'm going to be guiding you through an energizing flow for balance and stability. I recommend having a blanket handy and also a set of yoga blocks. I do recommend them, but they're also not necessary. You can make it through the flow without them. We'll begin seated with a long spine. I like to place one hand on my heart and one on my belly to get connected with my own breath, with the rhythms of my own body. Take one big exhale before we move into child's pose. For child's pose, our knees go wide, our toes touch, and we sit back. If you feel a lot of tension in your hips or in your shoulders, you can come down on your forearms, keeping your body long or even resting your head on your hands. If you don't feel that tension, walk your hands forward and place your forehead on the mat. Child's pose, Balasana. Reconnect with your breath here. You might even roll your head from side to side to massage your brow bone and release a little tension in your face. Now we'll come to tabletop position. Raise up and come into all fours with your knees beneath your hips and your wrists beneath your shoulders. We'll begin with some cat-cows. Inhale to arch your back and look up, cow pose. And exhale to push the ground away and round your spine, drop your head, cat. Inhale for cow and exhale for cat. Take a few more of these with your own breath. Now, begin to make some circular movements with your body. You can move your torso around in circles. You can kind of swing your hips from side to side. There's really no wrong way to do this. We're just introducing a little bit of fluidity into the body, warming up the hips, shoulders, and spine. You can even take some circles with your head here to warm up the neck. And don't forget your breath. Good. Now walk your hands a few inches forward and turn out your palms slightly. Tuck your toes and lift your hips up and back for downward facing dog. You may need to lengthen or shorten your stance depending on what feels good. No problem. You can bend your knees and work through your feet here. Just get a feel for this first down dog, stretching out the whole backside of your body. On your next exhale, walk your feet up towards your hands, bend your knees plenty, and then take your feet a little bit wider, about the width of your mat. We're here for a ragdoll pose, a gentle forward fold. It can feel nice to rock from side to side or even shift your weight forward and back in your feet, or to grab for one leg and then the other. Do anything that feels organic here and feels gentle. Scoot your feet back in, about underneath your knees, and then we'll roll up gently. Head comes up last. Roll your shoulders back a couple of times, and then you can come back to that posture that we did earlier with one hand on your belly and one on your chest to reconnect with your breath. And maybe your balance, if that roll up felt a little destabilizing, it can happen. On your next inhale, bring your hands above your head. Exhale, fold all the way forward. On an inhale, we'll make a long spine. It doesn't need to be flat, just long. And then on your exhale, plant your hands, step back to plank, drop your knees down and come all the way onto your belly. On your inhale, we'll do a baby cobra, which is where you just lift your head and shoulders off, little to no weight in your hands, spine strengthener. And then on your exhale, push back to downward facing dog. Take a few rounds of breath. Exhale to walk your feet forward. Inhale, long spine. Exhale for a forward fold. Inhale all the way up, hands come up, biceps by your ears. And then exhale, hands towards your sides. That is one round of Sun A. We'll do one more. Inhale to bring your hands up. Exhale for a forward fold. Inhale for a long spine. Exhale, plant your hands, step back to plank, drop your knees, come onto your belly. Inhale, little lift, baby cobra. And exhale, all the way back to downward facing dog. Maybe you feel some lengthening in your legs or some widening through your ribs. Make sure to use your hands like starfish. Exhale to walk forward. Inhale for a long spine, and exhale for another forward fold. Inhale to come all the way up. Exhale, hands are by your sides. Take a breath there. Now we'll step back for a lunge. So bring your left foot back and drop your knee. If you feel any pain in your left knee, you can always put a blanket underneath it if it's the floor or the mat is really tough on your joints. This is also a great place to use your blocks if you have them. They just bring the floor a little bit closer so you can keep a longer spine. You can also put your hand on your knee, whatever works here. We're just going to move forward and backward in this lunge. So wake up the hips. Good. And then come to a lunge where both of your legs are at about 90 degrees and inhale to bring your hands up. Take a few breaths there. And on your next exhale, twist open to the right. Your hands reach long to both sides. Your shoulders are centered over your hips. This doesn't need to be a twist where you're parallel to the wall, just open. On your next inhale, come back to center. Exhale, plant your hands and switch your legs. This time your left foot is forward and your right knee's on the ground. Once again, you can use the blanket if you need. No blocks is fine. Blocks are also fine. Whatever works for you here. And just shift forward and back, maybe moving with your breath. If you've got your blocks, move them towards the front. Come to that 90-90 lunge. Inhale to lift your hands up. Breathe here. And on your next exhale, twist open to the left. Use the energy in your hands and arms to deepen your twist and to bring it into your chest. Your gaze can be to the side or even a little bit over your back fingertips. Inhale to come back to center. Exhale, plant your hands and switch out your legs one more time. Here we're going to be doing almost the same thing, but just with the knee up. So come into a runner's lunge. And with or without blocks, just shift back and forth. Be mindful of what your spine is doing here. It's okay if it's not perfectly straight, but try to keep some length there. If you're using blocks, move them back to the front of your mat and inhale to rise. Sometimes our hips like to get a little wonky here, so bend your left knee to come to center with your hips. And then once you feel grounded, then you can straighten your back leg. Inhale to bring your hands up high. One grip that I like to use in this lunge is to interlace my fingers with my pointer fingers pointing up. It feels like a completion of the arc that we're creating. On your exhale, open to the right. Your gaze can be back over your fingertips or towards the side wall, whichever. Inhale to come back up. On your exhale, bring your hands by your sides. This is a little balance challenge here. We're going to launch into airplane pose. So your weight shifts forward. If this is tricky, no problem. Just play with it, come in and out. If you're feeling pretty confident, you can come to something similar to a T shape, being gentle with your right knee, your standing leg, making sure not to hyperextend or lock that knee. I'd recommend gaze being a few feet in front of you. And then we'll land right out of that in a warrior two position. We'll set up a little bit here. You want your right heel to be in line with your left arch. Careful that your knee isn't moving inward or outward. Careful that your knee isn't too far over your ankle. And then we'll elevate the arms and shift our gaze out over the right fingertips. And breathe. Sometimes our rib cage wants to go forward, so try to keep that more or less centered over your hips. Inhale for a reverse warrior. Switch your hands. I like to gaze up at my palm here. And then on your exhale, we're going to do something similar to airplane pose. We're coming into half moon, Ardha Chandrasana. This is where a block can be really helpful. You can use a water bottle too. The standing leg is straight, gentle with the knee. Your left leg is lifted. Your left arm is lifted. And use the strength in your extremities, your hand and your feet here, to keep that going. We'll land in a warrior two. Shift forward to a lunge. And then step forward to Tadasana. Take a couple wiggles, shake it all out. We'll do that same sequence with the right foot back now, left foot forward. If you like having your blocks around, you can use those as you warm up your hips, shifting forward and backward. Aware of your breathing. Go ahead and move your blocks out of the way if you've used them. Inhale to come up. If you liked that grip we did before, you can apply it again here. Careful once again with your hips. Maybe bend your right knee to get situated before you straighten it. And then, with your arms long, your gaze lifts. Exhale, open to the left for an open-armed twist. Use your fingers, arms, toes, and heels to enliven this stretch. Inhale, come back up. Exhale, hands come towards your sides, and we launch into airplane pose. This one's still tricky for me too. One thing here is you really want your toes, your right toes to be facing down. That keeps your hips in line. Gaze is forward, steady, and we'll land to set up for warrior two. So once again, check that your left heel, your front heel is more or less in line with your back arch, or back heel is fine too. Once you feel steady in your legs and your shoulders are above your hips, lift your arms. Look out over your left fingertips. If your shoulders are a little bit high, use your breath to release them away from your ears. Inhale, reverse warrior. I like my gaze up here. And then on your next exhale, we're going into half moon. Whee! Take your time here. And if you fall out of it, just play with it. If you're having trouble staying steady, it's also good to check that your right heel is going to be a little bit in front of your body, not behind. That'll help. Land in the warrior two. Turn everything forward for a high lunge, a crescent lunge. And then step your feet together and shake it all out. Nicely done. If you'd like to do the hands on the belly and the chest, give it a go. Maybe switch which one goes where, just for the sake of balance. Inhale to bring your hands up. Exhale for a forward fold. Inhale for a long spine. Then exhale, plant your hands, step back to plank, bend your knees, and then come all the way onto your belly. You're on the floor for the rest of class. Bring your hands in front of you and rest your forehead, and then bend your knees. Bring your feet up and wiggle them from side to side like windshield wipers. This can be nice to release the hips and low back. Take it easy. Breathe deep. Now come through all fours. One more child's pose. And just a reminder that you can prop yourself up on your forearms if there's a lot of tightness in your shoulders and hips. Otherwise, hands are forward, forehead on the mat. Deep breaths into the belly and chest. Come to all fours, just long enough to sit, and then to lay down. Bend your knees so they come in towards your butt. And then on an inhale, lift your hips up for bridge pose. Arms can be alongside you. Exhale and lower back down to the ground. We'll just be flowing this a couple of times. Inhale to lift your hips. Bridge pose. Exhale, back on the ground. We'll do 2 more of those. Inhale to lift. Exhale to rest. Inhale to lift. And exhale to rest. Bring your knees up towards your armpits, lift your feet in the air. We're going to happy baby here, so you can hold on to the back of your legs, or you can hold on to your feet. Insides or outsides are just fine. Maybe begin to rock side to side or kick one leg out and then the other. Get a little curious with this movement. You can even give yourself a foot massage if you like. Bring your knees in and hug them in for a little squeeze. We're going for some twist here. So first, shift your hips over to the left. Arms come to the ground one way or another. And then both of your knees fall over to the right side. Although I don't show it in the video, this is another time where you can put the blanket underneath or between your legs if there's any pain around the joints. Deep breaths. Bring your head back to center and then your knees. Hips come back to center before we shift them over to the right. And then let the knees fall to the left. Letting this twist unwind any final strands of thought before we come into Shavasana. Come back to center. Give yourself one more squeeze. And then get comfortable for Shavasana. I like to use a blanket over myself. You can also put a sweatshirt or socks back on. Anything to make yourself comfortable here. Like I said, my preference is the blanket over my body. Whatever works for you. Traditionally, this pose is done laying flat on the back, but you can open to a butterfly pose with your legs. Really take any shape here where you feel safe and comfortable and like you'll be able to absorb some of this movement. Close your eyes if you like, and I'll let you know when it's time to come out. At this point, you may want to deepen your breath before you begin to bring some movement back into your body. You can roll your head side to side, roll your feet and ankles. And when you're ready, take a full body stretch like you're waking up in the morning. Hands are above your head. And before we come to sit, roll into a fetal position using your bicep as a pillow. Just to take a moment to transition from that place of rest back into the movement of our day-to-day lives. And before we close, we'll come to a seated position, just like when we started. If you liked the one hand on the belly, one hand on the heart, go for that again. And just take a few final deep breaths. Thank you so much for your time. I hope to see you back here soon. Take care.